Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy. We are gearing up for another year of the Academy Awards. It comes around every year. We're just shy of 2 months away at this point. So the date is the 27th of March. Now, it's probably going to tick into the early hours of the 28th for us, I'm pretty sure, in the UK. That's how it's going to go. It's the 94th Academy Awards. This is the tradition that we do every single year on the channel, and it's always good fun. It's a little bit competitive, and it's just fun to play along on the night because it's a lot of hours we have to kill, and we have to keep ourselves occupied somehow. So that's the little game we like to play. We'll be explaining the rules in case you're new to it, in case you're discovering this video. But in a shocking turn of events, we're all not very confident with our picks. Now, I'm usually like that every year. I make no bones about that. It's just an absolute crapshoot for me every year. I just kind of like point at things. But you two guys, I'm actually shocked by this year. It does seem like it's quite wide open, which makes things very interesting when we get into it. But before we do so, over to George with the socials.
Absolutely, everyone. So comment all your thoughts on today's nominations, predictions, whatever. And same as last year, we want you to get involved because it's a long night to fill. There's a lot of stuff that happens. And we like the game going. And we tend to get a lot of people in the chat. So if you are going to be joining us on the night of the chat, which we appreciate, and it is good fun, we want you to email us in your Oscar predictions. Now, I made this easy for you this year. That sounded like a complete sado. I'm not better at Excel than a year ago. So if you open up the link in the description below, it should give you all a way to use it as a drop-down menu with all of the nominations already in there. You don't have to do any typing, just clicking. I should have actually sent it to us three to use, but I couldn't because I've done a new format. But we want you to get involved, so please do that. And yeah, we're live at the moment, so comment them. If you're not live, don't comment your predictions, email them to us, but comment your thoughts on the nominations and all that kind of stuff. Because we're going to be doing a lot of reviews, which we'll go over at the end and all that stuff, because we've got a lot of films to watch as well. And please do hit the subscribe button. A lot more Oscar stuff on the way. A lot of other stuff on the way. We'll go over them a little bit later on. We're going to find out where you can get us on our social medias. That's Twitter at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. Link to TeePublic in the description below. And again, going back to that document in the bottom, you have to go to file download before someone complains saying can't edit it. File download and email it into us. And the email's in the description and on the document because we want people to submit it in. And it makes it funny because I think there's been a few years where one of us three's won it, but someone that would have sent it in to had it higher. We've definitely had that in 1 or 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone get involved. We like people getting involved. We'll bring them up on the screen throughout the Oscar night. God, it feels a lot. It feels sooner than the 27th of March. Just saying that now. I know it was April last year, but it feels like it should be like 3 weeks, not like 7 weeks.
Yeah.
It's a weird one this year because I feel like I've seen barely any of the films, which is really strange. Normally going into this, like I'm absolutely brimming with like confidence and stuff like that. And it's coming up so fast as well. I'm just like, I've only seen like 2 or 3 of the films that have been nominated for Best Picture. Normally at this stage, I've seen at least 5 or 6 of them. So I don't really have much time to be able to watch all of them. But on the channel, we do tend to kind of get through and watch at least the Best Picture nominees and some of the major categories as well. Try and get through as many of these films as possible. But this year is so wide open. It's going to be very interesting to hear kind of all of our predictions and even your predictions when you send them in from home. We've went through the scores between the 3 of us from the previous years the other night. And I don't know, this year could be a really low scoring year. It could be a very high scoring year. It's going to go one of 2 ways. And we have absolutely no idea which way it's going to go.
Which makes it very fun. So hopefully these predictions, we'll get into them in a second. Hopefully it's a painless experience. I think it will be fine. But then again, after watching today's prediction video, nothing can be more painful than hearing Leslie Jordan trying to say the name Denis Villeneuve like 3 times and butchering it horribly.
Denis Villeneuve.
It was like that Dee McAdoo thing. You seen that newsreader trying to say that name?
What's it called? Adele Nazine.
Adele. Oh yeah, there's a whole collection going on, but yeah, it's particularly cringeworthy earlier today, which is all part of the Oscars experience, isn't it? I'm sure there'll be plenty more cringe material on the actual night. But George, handing over to you if you want to kind of explain the rules and kind of how we work this point system for on the night and sort of like keep people in the loop with it.
Yeah, so the way it works is you'll see on the sheet there's 2 nomination choices. You might be thinking, why did they get 2 goes? Well, it just makes it a bit funner for the point scoring system. So similar to football, well, not that you predict football matches and win unless you're just very good at gambling. your first choice, if you get that correct, is worth 3 points on the night. That is your first choice, your main one. 3 points if that is correct. We're polite. We give you a second choice. So if your second choice wins it, you'll get 1 point for the second choice. It's obviously valued a little bit lower, but it just makes it a bit spicier. I'm pretty sure I'd imagine most of these have been won on the second choices being correct, or the animated and the live action shorts and all that kind of stuff that all comes into it.
I think I've won by 1 point twice now. Which is
it seems to be tight or massive gap, but never like 3 or 4 points. No. It's like 1 or 20 or something like that. So that's kind of how it's going to go. And I think we have this question every year. I don't know why our order is the order it is done in. It doesn't really make much sense. It never has, but it works. It works to a point. So if you're going to ask about why it's in that format, I think it must have been like the very first year we did it. It was probably the order a website did it, or it was probably the order that actually did it all. But that being said, does anyone want to go first, or should we just roundtable it?
Yeah, should we just go clockwise? Me, George Tate.
Yeah, go for it.
So I believe we're kicking off with best visual effects first. Number 1, I've got Dune, and number 2, I've got No Time to Die.
Number 1, Dune. Number 2, No Time to Die.
I've got number 1, Dune, and number 2, No Way Home.
Oh, okay. We've got a first difference. There we go. Okay, best production design. Number 1, I've got Dune, and number 2, West Side Story.
Number 1, I've got Nightmare Alley, and number 2, I've put The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Number 1, I've got Nightmare Alley, and number 2, I've got Dune.
Oh, this is just already.
It's pretty interesting this year.
Yeah,
no, it's pretty interesting because Dune's got a lot of nominations. I think that and Power of the Dog are like country mile above the rest.
Yeah,
wasn't it last year? We'd read a category out, and then by the time it got to the second or third person, it was just like same.
Yeah,
and we had so many of the same ones this year. Oh, it's interesting. Best original score. Number 1, I've got Dune. Number 2, The Power of the Dog.
Yeah, number 1, Dune. It's Zimmer's. I'm going to finally be here on the year Zimmer wins an Oscar. And number 2, The Power of the Dog.
I've got number 1, Dune, and I've got number 2, Encanto. I'm banking on that musical kind of score coming through.
No, you might not be way off base on that one. I was considering it. Best international feature film. Okay, this was a crapshoot, as I said on this one. So number 1, I've got The Worst Person in the World, and number 2, Drive My Car.
I've gone number 1, Drive My Car, and number 2, Flee.
Now, it's interesting because Drive My Car got nominated for Best Picture, didn't it? So I think it's pretty much a lock-in. So I'm going Drive My Car number 1 and Worst Person in the World number 2.
Okay, best film editing. Number 1, I've got Dune. Number 2, Power of the Dog.
I've got number 1, Dune. Number 2, Tick, Tick, Boom.
I've got number 1, Don't Look Up. And I've got number 2, Power of the Dog.
This is a madness. I love it.
It's a madness pick, I know, but I think...
I don't think it's wrong. I think Don't Look Up's going to like nab a big award or two, and I really want to. Oh, shit.
Okay, that takes us, I believe, on to best sound. And if anything, just for that throat singing at the start of the film, number 1, I'm going Dune, and number 2, Power of the Dog.
I'm the same. Number 1, Dune. Number 2, Power of the Dog.
And I'm different. Number 1, Dune. Number 2, West Side Story.
Oh, Tate, I'm usually the wild card. I think you might be the wild card this year, mate.
Proper wild carding it this year.
Best live action short film. Shit, I had nothing for this. Number 1, A la Kachu, Take and Run, I think it was called. And number 2, The Long Goodbye.
Oh, pretty okay. I've got number 1, The Long Goodbye. Number 2, A la Kachu, Take and Run.
Okay.
I've got number 1, The Long Goodbye, and number 2, Please Hold.
Okay. Best animated short film. Number 1, Robin, and number 2, is it Bestia?
I've got number 1, Robin, number 2, Box Ballet, because I like the sound of that.
I've got number 1, Robin, number 2, Box Ballet as well.
That's one of my favorite little mini traditions in this thing, is that we usually always pick it on whichever one runs off the tongue nicer, I think.
Thing is, though, with that category, Robin, I think they've advertised that so heavily on Netflix and stuff like that. It's Aardman, isn't it? It is Aardman, so I think it will probably win it.
So I think that's the only one of them on Netflix, isn't it? Out of
one of the entire short films that I actually knew the name of. So there you go.
Best original song, and it seems mad that it's getting nominated in 2022, considering how old this song is by now. But number 1, I've got No Time to Die, and number 2, I've got Dos, or whichever the one is from Encanto, that one. Dos Arugritas. I don't know. I can't Yeah,
I'm
that one.
the same here. Number one, No Time to Die. If Sam Smith gets to win Best Song for a Bond film,
Yeah.
then on paper, every Bond film for eternity should be winning this award.
Yeah.
Number two, Dos Oreguatas. Can't pronounce it, not in Spanish.
Okay, I'm going the opposite. I think Lin-Manuel is going to get this. I'm going Dos Oreguatos Encanto as number one, just purely out of the fact that we don't talk about Bruno didn't get nominated, and this song did. I'm assuming that this song will win. And number two, No Time to Die.
Is Bruno the one that's like broken all these records for like being frozen or something?
It didn't get nominated for certain reasons, and I don't know why. It's worth probably looking up, but the fact that another song from Encanto was nominated makes me think that's probably going to win it instead.
Mm-hmm. Okay, our favorite category, best makeup and hairstyling. Number one, I've got Dune, and the only nomination it's been nominated for, I've got number two, House of Gucci, just for that fat suit on Jared Leto.
Number one, I've gone for The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I haven't seen it yet, but no one knows it, Jessica Chastain. And I've gone wild. Number two, I've gone for Cruella. I won't bring myself to type House of Gucci.
Number one,
crushed.
Number one, I've gone for Eyes of Tammy Faye because genuinely that's all I've heard people talking about the makeup from that film. And number two, I've gone with Dune.
Okay, best documentary short. As I say every year, I don't really watch any documentaries. So number one, I've got Audible, and number two, I've got Lead Me Home.
Number one, I went for Audible. I'm sure that's an app that YouTube.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
It's an audiobook. Yeah.
And number two, I've got Queen of Basketball.
Number one, I've got Queen of Basketball, and number two, I've got 3 songs for Benazir.
Best documentary feature. Number one, I've got Flea, and number two, I've got Summer of Soul, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised. George, I'm sure you're just going to write that down as Summer of Soul. So there we go. Let's just go with that.
I've put number one, Flea. Number two, Summer of Soul.
I've gone number one, Summer of Soul. Number two, Flea.
Okay, we're close on that one then. Just really quickly before we continue, I got a comment from Martin saying, "Great to hear Belfast getting 7 nominations."
Yes.
Yeah, it's up there. It's certainly up there.
Mm-hmm.
One of them very controversial. One very controversial.
I'll point out we haven't even mentioned it yet, and we've come through half the nominations.
It might be coming up later in some of mine.
Yeah.
Best costume design. So number one, I've got West Side Story. Number two, I've got Dune. I was tempted to flip them around, but I'm sticking with West Side Story at number one, I think.
I've gone with Cruella at number one and West Side Story at number two. I'm playing this.
I've gone with George here. Cruella number one and West Side Story at number two. I'm pretty sure the person who did costume for Cruella is the same person who did Cinderella and all the other ones.
Okay.
So,
well, I just think she has about 50 dresses. It's about fashion.
Oh yeah, the film is about fashion as well. That's like.
Okay, best cinematography. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Now. This might be the first one where we all get exactly the same in the right order.
Number one, Dune. Number two, West Side Story. That's what I've gone for.
I've gone number one, Dune. Number two, The Power of the Dog.
I've gone with
I'm a bit nervous, I'm nervous.
I've gone with Power of the Dog as well as my number two, but Dune should be winning that. So
it depends on the whole part two thing. This is what
yeah.
I wanted to put a whole like Dune number one everything, but I'm not getting my hopes up.
I mean, they could Lord of the Rings it, they could wait till they're all said and done and then be like, there you go. Best original screenplay. Number one, I've gone for Belfast, and number two, The Worst Person in the World.
Okay, number one, I've gone for Belfast, and number two, I've gone with Licorice Pizza.
Number one, I've gone for Licorice Pizza, and number two, I've gone for Belfast.
Best adapted screenplay. Number one, The Power of the Dog, and number two, Drive My Car.
Same here. Number one, Power of the Dog. Number two, Drive My Car.
I've gone number one, Power of the Dog. Number two, The Lost Daughter.
Okay, big categories now. Best director. Number one, I've got Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog, and number two, I've got good old Sir Kenneth Branagh for Belfast.
Number one wasn't nominated, so I'm pissed off. So I've had to go with number one, Jane Campion, and I'm gonna throw in Spielberg as a number two. I think that film's gonna potentially be a dark horse. But I'd like to remind the Academy that they fucked up and didn't nominate Denis Villeneuve again. Like BAFTA.
Yeah.
But I'll say that
next
night.
Yeah, part two.
I'm going with Chris on this one. I'm going Jane Campion with number one and Kenneth Branagh at number two. Sir Kenneth Branagh. Sir Kenneth Branagh.
Sir, don't you dare forget the Sir. He is 5 times winner. Anyway, best supporting actress. Number one, I've got Kirsten Dunst. and number 2, Judi Dench. I will actually say I'm glad that my 2 favourite actors from Belfast were nominated in both supporting categories, because that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, the Belfast supportings have caused a stir because every other award has done the mom and dad, not the granddad and grandpa. But I've also got to shout out the terrible pronunciation of Kieran Hines. It was like I don't know how they pronounced it, but I was like, that's not Kieran. It was something, or like Cheeran Hins. Like, it was so off, and it wasn't normal. But
I mean, as Irish names go, Kieran's a pretty easy one to get your head around, isn't it? I mean, there are some crazy ones out there, but that one's pretty self-explanatory. Like,
I've best supporting actress, number 1, I've gone with Ariana DeBose, and number 2, I've gone with Kirsten Dunst.
I've gone the opposite there. I've gone Kirsten Dunst at number 1 and Ariana DeBose at number 2.
Okay, best supporting actor. Number 1, I've got Cody Smith-McPhee, and number 2, I've got Kieran Hines.
I've gone for the Power of the Dog double bill. I've got number 1, Cody Smith-McPhee, and number 2, Jesse Plemons. Sorry, I just want to jump and say the fact that Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst got nominated together is actually really nice because they're a couple in real life.
I've gone Cody Smith-McPhee, and I've gone with Kieran Hines.
Okay, now we're into the big 4 that will arguably. Okay, best actress. Number 1, I've got Kristen Stewart for Spencer, and number 2, I've got Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers. I don't know why I went with that, but I think number 1 hopefully has it in the bag to give me a few points on that category. We'll find out.
I'm throwing a wild card. I'm going number 1, Nicole Kidman, and I'm going to put number 2, Kristen Stewart.
I hope I'm wrong. I think this category is so wide open. And honestly, I don't think Kristen Stewart's going to win it because there hasn't been much hype behind that film. I'm going with Olivia Colman at number 1 because you don't bet against Olivia Colman, and number 2, Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, Olivia Colman's got some good odds so far, hasn't she?
You just don't bet against her.
She must be protected. She's an absolute national treasure, and I love that woman. Best actor. Okay, number 1, I've got Will Smith for King Richard, and number 2, Benedict Cumberbatch for Power of the Dog.
I've gone number 1, Will Smith, and number 2, I've gone with Andrew Garfield.
Ooh!
I think there's a bit of momentum that could be had. Maybe I'm deluded, but I think this is Will Smith's share.
I've gone with Will Smith and Benedict Cumberbatch, but I will say it was very close between me switching those.
I want to say with Benedict Cumberbatch, second scariest banjo scene in movie history after Deliverance.
Jesus.
Best animated feature film. This one was tough. I mean, this is just Disney and Pixar dominating every year. The fact that they've got 3 films in the nominees this year, I mean, it's just, eeny, meeny, miny, mo at that point, isn't it? Number 1, I've got Encanto because I think because it's more recent, there's a little bit more hype behind it maybe, and obviously Lin-Manuel. And number 2, I've gone for Raya and the Last Dragon.
I've got number 1, Encanto, same as you, Chris. I think it's got the hype. I've gone with number 2, Flea, but only because it's popped up in a lot of other categories than animated, which I think it's broke a record, someone said. I don't know what the record is, but it's broken some form of record today.
Yeah, it's an animated foreign documentary, and it's nominated in all 3 of those categories, but I'm not going for Flea on this one. I'm going Encanto and Luca. I'm sticking to the Disney and Pixar's. Here's the big one.
The big one. Okay, and I'm probably going to be way off. Number 1, I've gone for The Power of the Dog, and number 2, Belfast.
Number 1, Power of the Dog. Number 2, Belfast.
Oh, for fuck! Okay, the one category where we all pick exactly the same in the same order is the best film. I was so close to putting West Side Story in there as well.
I don't take the whole. There's something about West Side Story. Just looking at today, that it's been obviously they're making money because it came out. Here we go. Here's a stat for everyone. 2 20th Century Fox films got released on December the 3rd and 17th. Both bombed because they came out the same week as Spider-Man. Yet all of them are the ones with the Oscar nominations, not Spider-Man. And Disney could have helped move Spider-Man's release date. Fox films getting buried as always. Like the last Duel as well got nothing, which is a shame. But no one saw it because of Disney.
I think that has to be the first time. I was going to say that has to be the first time ever that we've picked pretty much every single category apart from one as a different kind of pick for each of us. And it's so funny that everything will be decided before the best film kind of category.
It's happened before. I'm sure we've had best film before been equal.
We've
with
had best
everyone.
film before being equal, but I don't think we've had it where every single other pick has been like no void categories. Every single category counts, which is great for us because it shows how up in the air all of the categories were, that we all picked very wildly different.
Do you think there's a category in particular that will be the decider, which everything will kind of hang on, do you think? Or
Between
I
us
think
three,
screenplays. I'm going
I think it's
screenplays.
going to be the acting ones. I think this is the widest I've ever seen the 4 acting categories. Normally, supportings are locked in before nominations ever happen, and actor and actress is pretty obvious. But because I'm going to say it, because they didn't put Lady Gaga in, who I'm very glad they didn't, she was getting all this momentum for no reason. And she was waffling on about method acting, these New York academies she was studying at, all that kind of Oscar bait to get nothing. And
Yeah.
she spent 3 months piping up for no reason now, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I give this a letter, as bad as he's in that film, at least he literally said, people don't like it, that's fine. I'll respect that. He didn't waffle about what it means to act. He just said he was injecting himself with margarita instead. So there's that. Sorry, olive oil, I think he said he injects himself with. So no House of Gucci, hooray.
But yeah, that'll do it for the predictions, I guess. Now we commence the smack talk until the night of the Oscars itself. We always like to make it competitive if we can, all in good faith, though. So obviously, comment with your thoughts on the Oscar nominations, but other than that as well, actually get your nominations into us. As George mentioned at the beginning, there is that link in the description down below. Download that, fill it out, just email it back to us, and you'll essentially be playing along with us on the night of the Oscars, which is always fun to do. So yeah, like, comment, share, and subscribe. We've got plenty of other content until then. March 27th is still a way away. George, what else have we got coming up? I believe we've got a big video coming tomorrow night.
Yes, the Book of Boba Fett finale. I almost said The Mandalorian then. Finale. Spoiler discussion comes tomorrow night. The series is heading to an end. Is there going to be a series 2? We don't know. We might find out. There might be a credit scene. So 10 p.m. we'll be back live for that. That's going to be a fun one to talk about. I hope it's a fun one to talk about. It's not come out yet. And that's going to round out that series discussion, which is it's going to be an interesting. I think that with it ending tomorrow, that's where the real discussion comes from, I guess we can say. But aside from that, we've got a lot of Batman stuff slowly kicking off. There's going to be a video this Friday. It's going to be a tier list video, and it's all the theatrical Batman and allies. There needs to be a better term for it, but we'll find one eventually. And we got Neil on from. Yeah, it ended up being 2.5 hours somehow. But it was a fun 2.5 hours. So that's going to be on Friday. There's going to be a lot of other things. As I said, it's Oscar season now. There are a ton of reviews we're going to need to do. We'll probably have a discussion off air at some point. We'll do it on that, obviously. And then there's new releases as well, because the whole world is rubbing their hands at Death on the Nile and Uncharted coming out this Friday. Mm-hmm. One of which stars a Zionist, an anti-vaxxer, and a cannibal, and the other's been horrifically miscast. So which film's going to be the most torturous of the two? That's a discussion for another time, another year.
It's going to be a very interesting review when we get to Death on the Nile. I can't wait.
Do you think that's going to ruin any of Belfast's chances? That's a really good question. Because that's slap bang been put in February between nominations and Oscars.
Well, only so far as you can say that the aftermath of a certain actor in West Side Story could harm its chances as well.
That's a good point. Actually, that's a very good point.
Who knows?
Also, another Disney 20th Century Fox film that's going to. I wouldn't classify Death on the Nile as being buried. That's just been on the cutting room floor for years, and they've finally got to hit the release date button. But I mean,
Kenneth Branagh's bought another film out that's been nominated for however many Oscars. Is it 7? Did someone say?
He wrote it in lockdown as well, didn't he? He literally did everything after Death on the Nile was done.
Yeah,
it's a bit like what was the other one he did? I didn't see it. The kid one, Artemis Fowl.
Oh, Artemis Fowl. Yeah. I don't think anyone saw that film, George. No one watched it.
It was the one Disney put for free on Disney Plus in lockdown. That says how bad it was going to be. So they gave it out for free. But aside from that, when we do have videos to go over, we'll of course put them on our social media. That's Twitter @cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. Link to TeePublic in that description below. But as I said, do get those predictions sent off. We know it's 6 weeks away. And I guess what is fair to say between the three of us is that for those that take it really competitively, we have to have predictions today. We can't wait until after the BAFTAs, after the SAGs, after loads of other stuff. We do ours to the day We're not going to change them. And then
Mhm.
March 27th is when we find out. I'm sure there's been a year or two where we've all come in and thought, how did any of us put this? This is not going to get anything. That's definitely happened on 1 or 2 years. So, yeah, so everyone, please get involved. We love doing the Oscar stuff. Martin's already looking forward to the Book of Boba Fett tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going
I
to be a
am
good one.
too. Who will show up? We don't know. Anything's possible with modern day voice AI technology they're talking about. So yeah, anything else? I don't know. What's everyone at?
No, it's just going to be a big one. It's been nice to get all three of us on tonight as well. I will say that we've had a full house tonight, as always. Thomas Farrell was a terrible film. I mean, I hate to say Captain Obvious, Martin, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think anyone in the world will disagree with you there. Maybe one person, and let's feel sorry for that person. But yeah, tomorrow, Book of Boba. It's all going down. It's all coming to a head. Looking forward to it, and we'll give it the riot act tomorrow night at 10 p.m. But yeah, until that video, thank you for tuning in. Get your predictions in, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Take care, everyone.